Hello guys, I know that you didn't go to the university today, but that doesn't mean that you will not receive classes today. So, we're going to start explaining a little bit about the English Renaissance, okay? That is called the Golden Age and it was from the 1500s to the 1700s. And that period was the most important in England, and it's called Renaissance because it's like the meaning of rebirth, like coming again to the classic things, to the important things, and more deeper things. Okay? So before that, the Renaissance started in Italy in the 1400s, but in Italy was more like visual arts, like portraits, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Donatello, and that kind of stuff. But in England, the characteristics or the most influential art were music and literature. Okay? I am going to talk about a little bit of what happened during those years. In 1485, Henry VII came to the throne, and in that period of time were when the Tudor house started. In England, when a king ruled, had like a name. The house of him had a name. So his name was the Tudors. So from Henry VII to Elizabeth I were called the Tudors. In 1558, Queen Elizabeth was crowned, and she was called Elizabeth I or the Virgin Queen. And she was the second queen to be ruled in England. In 1573, Martin Luther King wrote the 39 Articles when he spoke against the Catholic Church. So in that period of time, where when the Lutheran Church was founded, so before that, all were Christians. Okay. And this is important because it's the period when the Reformation started, when the religion were divided into like Catholics and Protestants. And we're in that period of time when England started to be Protestant. In 1564, William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe were born. Those were most of the important writers in England, two of the most important. I'm going to talk about them later. In 1570, the Catholic Church retired the support to Elizabeth I. The Catholic Church said, okay, you decided to be Protestant, so we are not going to work with England or we are not going to have relationship with you. Remember that before that, the political system were divided into the church and the presidents or the kings. So in that period of time, the Catholic Church retired like the support. They said, okay, we are not going to work with you anymore. In 1578, James VI became King of Scotland, and that is important because he's going to be the King of England later, and I will explain that too. In 1584, Sir Walter Raleigh established the first English colony in the New World, and this is really, really important because in the Golden Age, where when America was discovered. So remember that during that period of time, the Spanish kingdom were the most powerful, and later the England became powerful too. So they decided also to discover some new fields in America. So Sir Walter Raleigh came and he founded the first colony in United States. During 1585 and 1604, England had a war against Spain, and in 1586 was called the Babington Plot because some people decided to kill the queen that was Elizabeth I. So it was a plot to kill the queen, but it was not possible. In 1588, the Spanish Armada is destroyed by the English fleet, so England won against Spain. In 1593, the theaters were closed due to the plague. Remember that in the Golden Age or the Renaissance, a lot of people love art. So they love going to playhouses, to the theater, and to read books and that kind of stuff. So the theater has to be closed because the plague, so everybody were just dying. In 1593, Marlowe is murdered, and remember that I will explain that later because Christopher Marlowe, is a really, really important writer from England. So we really have to study a little bit about him. In 1594, the theaters reopened their doors to the people. In 1597 to 1601, Ireland rebelled against England, so they just started to fight against them. In 1599, the Globe Theatre was built, and this is important because the Globe was the theater that Shakespeare founded. So it was like his theater, so this is important. In 1603, Elizabeth I died. She ruled England for more than 40 years, and the Tudors house ended. So remember that it started with Henry VII and it finished with Elizabeth I and finished the Tudors house and started the Stuarts house. But James the James the First was the King of England, and he was from Scotland and started the Stuarts house. In 1616, Shakespeare died, and James the First published the King James Bible, and we are going to study that later. In 1642, the English Civil War started, and the Puritan closed the playhouses. Okay, so I'm going to finish with this, the timeline, and I'm going to tell you a fairy tale. So, as you can see, there are the Tudors. So, in that period of time, Henry VIII was the king. So, imagine Henry VIII was a powerful and handsome king. He was after Henry VII, that was his father, and he wanted to rule England. He was really, really powerful. So his brother died before him. He was not the first child. He was the second one. So he didn't supposed to be the king. His brother supposed to be the king, but he died. So he had to get married with his brother's wife. That is called. She was called Catherine of Aragon. She was from Spain. And they got married and they had a wonderful princess that is called Mary. But just guess what? They hate they hated to have girls and not boys as daughters and sons. So he said like, okay, I need a son. And he asked him like try to had a son with Catherine of Aragon from Spain, but she couldn't. So he said like, okay, so she cannot give me a girl, so I want to get married again, and I want to divorce from you. But the church in that period of time, the Catholic Church was still in England in that period of time. So the Catholic Church said no, you can be divorced with her. So he said, okay, so are you telling me that I cannot get divorced? And the church said, yeah, no, you can't. So he decided, okay, so I'm going to create my own church. So he created the Anglican Church in that period of time, where when he created a church, a separate church, that it were called the Anglican Church, because he said, okay, so if the Catholic Church don't let me be divorced, I'm going to create my own religion. In my religion, I can get divorced. So he was divorced with Catherine of Aragon. He got married with his second wife. During all the period, he had 6 wives. The second one was Anna Boleyn, or Anne Boleyn. She was really wonderful. And with her, he had his second girl, who was Elizabeth I. He also tried to have a boy, but it was not possible. So he said, So you cannot give me a boy, so I'm going to be divorced again. Get divorced again. So he got divorced again, and he actually said that Anne Boleyn was like having a lot of boys also. Like he was having different relationships with different boys. And it was a lie. But he was executed, so he killed her. Later, he had his third wife, that is called Jane Seymour. With her, he had his first son, who was called Edward. But Edward was really sick. He was not like a strong boy. And in that period of time, he said that actually Jane Seymour was his first wife. He considered her like his unique wife because he was the only one that could give him a boy and not a girl. Um, he didn't kill her. She died nine days after Edward was born. So he was devastated because he loved her. So he had a fourth wife that is called Anne of Cleves. He liked her, but it was more like his friend. So he considered him. I don't remember the name. Um, the king's sister. He saw her like a sister. So they got separated, and he sent her to another castle. And actually, she like carried Elizabeth I when her mother died. And after he was separated with her, he was married with a fifth wife, and she was Catherine Howard. She was so beautiful. She was wonderful. She was younger. She was precious, and he loved to give gifts to her, like juice and gifts and money and that kind of. And she was cousin of Anne Boleyn, so he was married with two cousins, with Catherine and Anne. But she was executed too because he said that she was cheating him with another boy. So he became like old and fat and ugly, as you can saw in the picture. And he got married with his sixth wife, and she was Catherine Parr. And he he didn't like her. It was more like to take care of her of him because he was old now. So he got married just to have someone to take care of him. But he talked bad about her. Actually, he said that he used to ban books and that kind of stuff. He had diabetes and ulcerative left. So the doctors had to cut his leg. And that's the story of England. So imagine a religion was created just because he wanted to have a lot of wives. And that's funny. And that's how Anglican Church was created. After Henry died, actually Edward became the king, but he was just 10 years old. So imagine having a king of 10 years old, like ruling the whole England. But he was sick, so he died with tuberculosis. Like, as soon as his father died, he died too of tuberculosis. And he could not be the king. After him, like a lot of people tried to, Catherine of Scotland wanted to be the, the queen. but the people rejected her. So the people decided that Mary Tudor, that if you remember was the first daughter of Henry VIII, she was the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, so she was also from Spain, to be the queen. So Mary Tudor was the first queen of England. Um, she was she reigned from 1553 to 1558, and she was called the Bloody Mary. So you can imagine why. Result of that, she was Catholic, and if you remember, her father created a new religion just because he wanted to get married with a lot of women. So she said, no, I want England to become Catholic again. So she decided to kill almost 300 Protestants because she wanted England to be Catholic, and that's why she was called Bloody Mary. After her, Elizabeth I became the Queen of England. If you remember, she was the daughter of the second wife that is called Anna Boleyn. Elizabeth is considered one of the most famous queen of England. Actually, she's called the Virgin Queen because she never got married. So she decided to don't have a husband, and she ruled England for more than 44 years. So she's considered really famous. As homework, as you can see on your now, there is a movie of Elizabeth. So please click on the link and watch the movie during this week. And later give me a summary of it. Okay? So I need a summary of 1 page about the movie of Elizabeth I. So I'll continue with that. When she died in 1603, James I became the King of England, but he was not from England, he was from Scotland, and that's why Stuart's house started. And James I also was really famous because he also wrote, and he was one of the first kings that ordered to translate the Bible. So we're going to study that later. I am going also to talk about a little tips or something interesting about that period of time. Mm, the status of women in socially arguably declined during Renaissance, so the women were considered like the second page or were not as important as boys. Also during the 16th century, humanist writing raised, and especially about the two topics, education and good government. And English population double, and the prices rocket, rents follow, all social loyalties dissolve, and new industrial, agricultural, and commercial veins were first lapped. And also another important thing is that in that period of time, the vagabond dash and the crime were the biggest social problems because the rich were really rich and the poor were really poor. So were a lot of vagabundos or vagabundes, and also crime. The crime rise a lot. Another important thing is the science, like rebirth. The science rebirth, like we have a lot of scientists, Leonardo da Vinci and that kind of stuff. He was not from England, but it was a period when the science just raised. And also was the discovery of America, and that is really important because that changed the history of the world. And some of the authors from this period, you can just read them on the screen. And I want you to do 2 things for this week. Actually, 3 things. Number 1, you're going to watch the movie of Elizabeth I, and you're going to write a summary of 1 page. Number 2, you are going to choose one of the authors, but you can't choose William Shakespeare. It was not an option. We're going to have just a class for him, so please don't choose Shakespeare and other authors. So you're going to choose them and you're going to prepare an exposition with that. Una exposición en la que explique la vida de ese autor, donde prepare una hoja donde explique con un mapa mental la vida del autor, por qué fue importante y algunos ejemplos de su obra. Y tercero, un juego o una hoja de trabajo para que sus compañeros puedan responderla. These expositions will be presented in the next class. Estas exposiciones vamos a presentarlas en la siguiente clase. Y número 3, les voy a enviar también a través del grupo un libro sobre Shakespeare y lo vamos a leer para la siguiente clase. Entonces tenemos 3 tareas: ver la película, hacer un resumen de una página, escoger un autor y preparar la exposición, y número 3, vamos a leer el libro para la siguiente clase, porque aún no estoy segura si van a haber clases por la Feria de Independencia. Entonces igual para la siguiente, durante este tiempo, vamos a estar leyendo el libro de Shakespeare y atentos en el grupo que voy a estar preguntando, ver cómo van. And if you have any doubts or something, just call me or write to me on the page, on the group, on the WhatsApp group, and I will answer you the questions. Y por favor, escriban en el grupo de WhatsApp, en cuanto vean esta clase, qué autor van a escoger para que todos tengamos diferente autor. Solo recuerden que no pueden escoger a William Shakespeare, porque de él vamos a tener una clase aparte. So that is it. So congratulations and see you the next class. Y no se olviden seguir completando su álbum. So I hope that you can have a wonderful week and see you.